It's been a while. I've been wanting to record this video for a long time now, and just haven't been able to sit down and do it for reasons that I will get to, but will be made very clear. But it is 10 minutes past midnight, and Mother Nature sent this wonderful rainstorm, and I was having trouble going to sleep, and so I figured these are all signs that now is the time to record a video to help people relax and maybe go to sleep. I will ramble a bit, and hopefully it will be just a bit and not as much of a long-winded, over-detailed apology for the dead air on my channel. But first, I figured it would be helpful setting of a scene, I guess, to start with reading a selection from a book. This is a book that I have been wanting to read, needing to read, having a strong desire to read, except that I don't really read much in general. I unfortunately didn't read much for pleasure growing up, and so then when I stopped having to read things for school, it hadn't been a routine or a hobby that I had put time and thought into. So I don't really read books much. But this book is a special one to me, and it's also one that I think will shine a bit of a light on what's been going on and possibly some things that you might not have taken the time to think about are going on in your life. This book is called A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD. Embrace neurodiversity, live boldly, and break through barriers. And it was written by Sari Solden, MS, or Sari Solden. I think it's Sari, but it could be Sari, I don't know. And Michelle Frank Saidi. I was diagnosed with ADD at a very young age. And for the record, ADD is now, since the 80s, before I was even alive, is actually just a subtype of ADHD, which I'm only going to read the intro chapter because I don't want the lovely people who put this book into the world to flag my video for stealing their content, but yeah, so I've known that I've had ADHD since I was very young, but never really took the time to learn about what exactly that means. And like most everything in science and in studies, there is not comparatively as much information and knowledge and desire to look into the ways that women are affected, or when experience different diagnoses. And one thing that I also want to clarify, which again might also be explained in the intro of this book, is ADHD is it is a neurological disorder. So what that means is its application and function in the mind is in a similar way. It functions in the mind in a similar way that autism and the autism spectrum affects the brain, in that it is in the in the wiring of how the brain operationally functions, which is what makes it like neurological as opposed to like a psychological disorder. A lot of from what I've gathered from the way that I explain it, at least to myself. I'm not a professional, so this might not be completely accurate, but psychological disorders, like anxiety, depression, things like that, are things that are acquired through it's like a nature versus nurture kind of thing. That's more of the nurture, where it's like I suffer from varying subcategories of anxiety and depression as a result of the experiences that I've had in my lifetime, coloring the way that I experience other things later on in the world. However, anxiety and depression and psychological diagnoses like that, they can be I don't want to make it sound like they can be cured, but they can be kind of like how like scientific theories can be like supported or like disproven. They can be unsupported and can be, I mean, it involves a long process of often consulting with a professional and working through those kinds of things, either incrementally or through isolating and containing different triggers and experiencing them in a controlled environment. But ADHD, much like the spectrum of autism, is not ever going to go away. It is something that affects the way your brain processes stimuli, including like I'm not going to go off on that, but it affects the way that you experience the world and you process information. And so the way to work through that, as opposed to anxiety and depression, is through finding strategies of making the symptoms manageable. So, wow, I thought I was was going to start this video reading, and it's taking me 15 minutes to get to it. Anyway, so this book was one that my therapist recommended that I read, and as I don't really read much, I haven't barely read this, but I figured since I've also been meaning to make an ASMR video, then this would be kind of two birds in one stone, I guess. And I have been still actively in the ASMR community, I guess. If you follow me on Twitter, which should be on my channel about page, then you will see every time I like a video, it gets sent there and posted, because I need ASMR. It is what keeps me from spending a lot of nights just overthinking and just in a hole. So let me see where I want to start with this. So there is a section at the beginning that's like a note to our readers that kind of goes over like context, like yes, they're calling it ADHD now, and here's some different key terms that we'll be going over in here, like executive functioning. But I figured it would be beneficial if I just jump straight in. So, part 1, braver. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. That is a quote by Anais Nin. You probably understand what we mean when we say having ADHD can feel like you have something wonderful inside, just waiting to bloom. If only you could break free from all of the things holding you back. You might have found yourself hiding away more and more as you've tried your very best to manage your challenges and cope with the hurt, loss, and confusion that comes with ADHD life. You may have tried time and again to fix yourself, hoping to find freedom in becoming more like someone else, someone without ADHD, only to discover that you can't get rid of the hard stuff without also getting rid of the splendor that makes you who you are, or without living behind a tiring facade. If you picked up this book, chances are you're ready to drop the old struggle and put your energy into something new and bold. Because, as you've likely found, there comes a time when sacrificing who you are, who you know yourself to be, and what you most deeply long to become, is more powerful than facing the fear of opening up to be seen, heard, and known for all that you are. So stop waiting. This moment is as good as any. Is it time to take the risk to blossom? So let's begin bravely. Chapter 1. Welcome to the tribe, making a world of difference. Our book is called A Radical Guide for Women with ADHD, to emphasize the simple but radical idea that instead of trying to change and fix herself, a woman with ADHD can simply learn to be herself. This guide is not radical in the sense of promoting any unusual strategies, herbs, or diets, or discarding effective conventional treatment for the brain-based challenges of ADHD. To be clear, this book is not anti-medication or anti-strategy. This book is about ADHD, but the truth is, it's not entirely or exclusively about ADHD. It's about a great deal more. At its core, this guidebook is about helping you become and value who you truly are, challenges and all. For this reason, our approach places an emphasis on embracing brain differences and recognizing that the process of helping women with ADHD is incredibly nuanced and complex. The ways in which people with brain-based differences are pathologized and compared is similar to how others with more visible differences are judged by a gold standard of the majority. With the concept of neurodiversity, Thomas Armstrong, 2010, addresses the much healthier and broader way of celebrating and understanding those with brain-based differences instead of viewing them as inferior. Instead of pretending there is hidden away in a vault somewhere a perfectly normal brain to which all other brains must be compared, we need to admit there is no standard brain, just as there is no standard flower or standard cultural or racial group, and that in fact diversity among brains is just as wonderfully enriching as the biodiversity and the diversity among cultures and races. To help our clients with these unique brain-based challenges come to embrace their neurodiversity, we guide them through a process of untangling in which they come to terms with who they are at their core, under all those layers of shame, stigma, and confusion. We've watched the exciting process that unfolds as women with ADHD eventually break through all the cultural, internal, and relational barriers to move beyond surviving to actually leading bold lives as powerful and strong women with unique brains, strengths, and challenges. Let's see. Should I continue reading? I'm going to read this not last, but this next section, because, I don't know, it seems like a good place to end it, but this section is called Better Together. You are not an alien on this planet or a stranger in this life of yours. You are part of a community of extraordinary women, kindred companions on their journey through an ADHD life that is full of more wonder and chaos than you think you can handle. You can handle it, by the way. You already are. And in this community, you will find solace in the stories of one another. We are psychotherapists in our professional lives, but we are also women on the same journey as you. Over the years, we have had the privilege and pleasure of accompanying and guiding women from all over the world on this exciting journey of discovery. Remember that you are not alone on this wild ride. It takes courage to keep going when you aren't completely sure where you are supposed to be headed. We've been there too. Uncertain as you might feel, at some point you need to embrace your difficulties and differences and move on to own your gifts, talents, and the qualities that make you who you are. You will have to work with this. You will have to work at this. Fight for it. For women with the kinds of mysterious and invisible differences that come with ADHD, it takes a special kind of courage to keep the spark alive and to keep opening slowly but surely until we blossom, no longer hiding who we are. At some point, ADHD has probably impacted your ability to let yourself be known, to say what you think or show who you are. The truth is, this journey to living boldly as a woman with ADHD isn't completely about ADHD. It is also about how you view and express your true self as a woman with invisible differences, which are challenges that other people can't see from the outside. The way you think about yourself and your ADHD challenges is deeply sculpted by the gradual and eventual internalization of repeated messages about difference, the implied consequences of living outside the majority, neurotypical and otherwise, and how those belief systems continue to shape your internal and external experiences in the present. It's important to understand your relationship to the idea of difference, because this is exactly the world us women with ADHD inhabit, a world of difference. So, since we last met, since my last video, a lot has happened, a lot of time has passed. And I have kind of been running parallel to my ADHD symptoms. And doing a lot to limit how often I have to address them head on. However, I was recently working at a job that made me realize that my passion is in childcare. It also made me realize a lot of ways that I have been unkind to myself mentally. I expect a lot of myself, and I don't give myself enough forgiveness when I don't meet those expectations. And I allow myself to fall into a destructive cycle of shame and frustration leading to apathy and just withdrawing from making any sort of movement. So I realized that I needed to go back and relearn and practice and strengthen and mindfully establish better habits in regards to my self-image and the mistakes and stumbles that naturally happen as a result of just trying things. So I quit my job and I am lucky to have the privilege to afford to live off of my savings for a little while, so that I can learn how to live with the parts of myself that I get frustrated and embarrassed by on a regular basis. And to also lean in and embrace more of the ways that my neurological wiring allows me to experience the world. I wonder if the video just died too. Oh no, we're still recording. And I was thinking, if if I can find a way to make it sound nice, I might kind of capture it for ASMR videos. I don't wish to turn my whole channel into a mental health zone, psychology content, self-help, life hack, whatever kind of things. But I think that ASMR is a beautiful and lovely means of enjoying or finding enjoyment in potentially anything. Just if you like the way it sounds. And this community, though I haven't really had much interaction with people, I feel like this community is a very, I hesitate to say it and potentially jinx it, but it feels like a wholesome bunch, at least the people who take the time to leave comments. Generally, they aren't leaving hateful things, and if you do, you're gonna get blocked, because it's just not worth my time. But ASMR has been so important in my life for so long. Because at first it was nice to appreciate that there were other people out there who also enjoyed things that just sounded satisfying. And then I got to interacting with other content creators, Heather Feather, I think I had interacted a little bit with Laura Limericks, but other creators, and everyone is very lovely and kind, and And I don't think I really realized or appreciated this until pretty recently, but it has been consistently helpful in practicing the ability to tune out all of the thoughts that are buzzing around in my head all the time and focus on one thing, and to let that one thing just be a relaxing voice or a satisfying activity. And that obviously helps me to sleep, but it also helps to be less overwhelmed. I don't know much about autism. I learned a bit about it in working at the daycare where I worked. We had a few kids on the spectrum. And so I've learned kind of the qualities that came with that, but it made me more aware of my own sensitivities, to see in other people what that can look like, especially in young kids who haven't already gotten the strategies and coping mechanisms and all that. I don't know much about autism, but one thing that I do know is that people who are on the autism spectrum have a keen sensitivity to sensory stimuli. So the way things feel, the way things sound, like the physical appearance, the way they look. I mean, smell and taste, I guess, sure, too. So that's why a lot of times you'll see someone on the autism spectrum like covering their ears because they're sensitive to when things are too loud and when things are too quiet. And one thing that I realized in myself is that I am sensitive to feelings and emotional just vibrations, I guess. And I also have a tendency to overthink and overinterpret and overanalyze and often misinterpret when it comes to understanding other people. And I don't know why I felt the need to share that. Except to say that it really meant a lot to get notifications months after I last posted a video of someone commenting saying, "Hey, hope you're okay." Because as much as life isn't about doing things for the sake of how they're perceived by others, that is kind of the heart of posting content on the internet. And I believe very strongly in using what gifts and talents and abilities and resources at one's disposal for the betterment of the world in whatever ways that may be interpreted, I guess. And so the possibility that there could be people watching my videos despite any hopeful sign of me returning to make more. It's validating of the time that it takes to grab all the supplies and do the makeup and hair and clothes that I didn't do for this video, and find a moment with either minimal background audio or a calming white noise background audio like I did here, and to commit all of that to making a video. You do it in the hopes that people see it and that people benefit from it. So it makes my heart feel tingly to know that someone somewhere may be benefiting from this rambling video about mental illness and the human experience, I guess. If you are still here, still paying attention to what I'm doing or saying, leave a comment with one of the most life-altering things you've learned about yourself due to the forced isolation and quarantine of this whole pandemic. Because for me, it was the realization that I was more in the denial stage of coping with my disorder, and thought that I was in the acceptance stage just because I had gotten so good at masking myself. But have also, as a negative side effect of that, become less forgiving for the times when masking doesn't work. thank you for taking this time with me. I don't want to set up any potentially ruinable expectations about when I'm going to post another video, but I will say, as I'm now not technically employed, I may have to, well, I may consider making recording and creating content a more regular part of my routine, because I enjoy it. I enjoy the process of bringing that calm into someone's world, and I enjoy the validation of someone saying that it helps them. So, again, this book is called A Radical Guide to Women with ADHD. Embrace neurodiversity, live boldly, and break through barriers. And I will leave a link in the description to purchase this. Please try not to purchase it from Amazon, because Amazon is out to destroy small businesses everywhere, and it started with the books. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a little while.